Hey guys, it's Conradish here. Hey guys, it's Freya, Odin's Fire. Hey everyone, Fresh Asshole here. Hey guys, it's Fairy Mane. And obviously that name means nothing to you right now because this is my first YouTube video. But hopefully not before long, Fresh Ass Fairy Mane will become a household name. So you should feel special. So this is a story about 2CI, which is a synthetic, psychedelic, and there's a lot of different 2Cs out there. There's 2CB, 2CE, 2CI, all with varying safety profiles. And 2CB and 2CI are relatively safe, but I know there's some out there that are most definitely not, that you should stay away from, because they can give you seizures and other things like that. So for your own information, you know, I'm not a book. I'm not going to sit here and tell you all the ins and outs of everything, because that's not what I'm here for today. But you can check out all this information on Erowid, and you can just Google 2C, and it'll come up with a ridiculous amount of information. So this is a story that my dog told me, and my dog's name is I. We also refer to him as me and my. He goes by many monikers. He has some problems. He's very rambunctious. He's a Gemini. Everyone knows this is a story about the past. My dog doesn't do drugs anymore. He went to rehab. He was really heavy into Benzodrex and Robitussin. But, you know, he met with his buddies at the pound. They got it all situated out, and he's not on no drugs anymore. So I'm really proud of me. So I'll introduce the characters of this fictional story that Mai told me. And so there was me, Mai's friend Penelope, and Allotted, and Angelo. And that's what we'll call them. That's obviously not their real names, because those are fucking stupid ass names. Who would be named fucking... Anyway, this was my first time tripping, so I was obviously excited. And I also anxious, because I didn't really know what I was getting myself into. And so, of course it would be fun to have my friends there, and a good trip sitter. And this dude, Angelo, he was taking 2CI or like 2CB like 2 or 3 times a week, which I have no idea why. I don't know why anyone would need to fucking trip that much, or how you can still trip considering tolerance and everything. So me, Penelope, and Allotted decided that we would all drop at the same time. Angelo also dropped a tab, but according to him, it would barely affect him. It would just be like smoking weed for him. And I just kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt, and I was like, okay, you know, as long as there's one relatively sober person, it's no problem. And so we all dropped at the same time, so that we could peak at the same time and have kind of similar effects. The only difference was I took 1 tab, and Penelope and Allotted took 2 tabs. And I don't know why exactly they did this. I think it was just them being overconfident, and because they both said that they had, you know, tripped on acid before. I hadn't. But at the same time, you gotta remember, this isn't acid, this is 2C, and we were not very well informed on the differences. But yeah, we sat around, waiting for things to happen with a combination of excitement and nervousness. Mostly excitement, because this was the first time and I was very excited, just the trip, just the novelty of having finally tripped was pretty crazy for me. As stupid as that may sound, but the first tinges of the experience, the coming up phase, was very mellow. Like any other kind of psychedelic, I started feeling like my body was liquid, like I would move, and things would just feel weird, touch my face. It feels like I'm not really touching my face, it's more like I'm touching like slime or something. And then I started getting the first bits of visuals, which were really cool. I would look at the wall, and it would start waving, like it would pulsate in and out, and the ground would do the same thing. But on the floor, it was super cool because it just looked like ocean waves. And every time I would take a step, it was like I had to lift my feet up like an extra inch because I felt like I had to walk over the waves. And it was like I just kept on walking from one side of the room to the other side just because it was so fun. Just stepping over the waves, pretending I was walking on top of ocean waters. You know, the visuals kept on like this for a little while, just being really mellow at first. And at one point, Angelo, our trip sitter, played a psychedelic video for us that I'm guessing was from the 60s, or it could have been a newer band. But we saw one video in the center, but then also, apart from that, we saw a hologram that wasn't really there, a video off to the side, and then off to the other side, and then one on top. And so it was like after images of this video just out to all sides of it. And it was really crazy. And at this point, like, colors were starting to change and the visuals were getting more intense, but still at the same time relatively mellow, and everything was still just very manageable. I had this weird feeling at the in the pit of my stomach, though, that things were about to get crazy. And I was most certainly right about that, because after 45 minutes or so of just smooth come up, it was like the peak hit me out of fucking nowhere, and it was like, here's the scale coming up, it's all smooth, and then it just shoots up. Like, all in one instantaneous moment, it goes from mellow to absolutely hectic. The way that this manifested itself was insane, because remember, we all dropped at the same time, but they took 2 hits, I took 1 hit, and at one point I was just watching them on the sofa, talking to them, or just staring at shit, I don't remember, but I was looking at them, and all of a sudden, their bodies shrank to the size of their head, making them look like puppets. And at the same time that this happened, they got this panicked look in their eyes, as if they knew that their bodies were shrinking and that they were turning into puppets. It was like my perception of them was reflected in the way they acted. Even though they had no idea that they were seeing them like this, it was like they were reacting to my perception of them turning into puppets. It's like they knew they were turning into puppets, man. Obviously, the reason for this weird synchronicity is that we dropped at the same time, and they were peaking at the same time, and it's crazy how it was down to the exact moment. Like, the moment that I peaked, the moment that things went from here to here, the same thing happened for them, and I could see it in their eyes. They all of a sudden lost all reference of, like, what was going on before that moment. And specifically, Penelope, this is where things go off the rails for him. Penelope had this frightened look in his eyes were wide, and he was just staring in one direction and then another, and he just had this panic look on his face, and he was like, what the fuck is going on? And takes off and just starts pacing around the room. And so I was like, okay, Penelope's gone, Penelope's freaking out, and at the same time, the Lauded is sitting there. Penelope was externalizing his freaking out, and Penelope was just... Penelope was internalizing it and just taking it all in. But at the same time that I saw them turn into puppets, everything behind them just turned into this whirlwind of fucking color. And people say that 2CI is a lot more visual than LSD or like mushrooms per se, and whereas LSD has more of a headspace, 2CI just has more visuals, just more craziness, and I could definitely see that because the visuals were out of hand, uncontrollable. I looked to my right, and that's when I realized I had the most insane trails, the most insane trailing ever. As in, the entire image of what I saw before would follow into whatever I was looking at next. And then even more so than that, this thing I was looking at, I would turn once again, and then both of the two previous images would follow. So it was like trails upon trails that just kept on overlapping each other. So it was like I was seeing, at some points, like 10 different images at once, and I didn't even know what the hell was in front of me and what the hell was something that I was just looking at before. And I remember this reoccurring thing. They had this creepy-ass horse for, like, Halloween. This creepy-ass horse Halloween mask sitting in the corner of the room that I was really not cool with it being there in the first place, even not tripping because it was just a creepy-ass mask. But throughout the whole trip, I kept on seeing that thing everywhere. And it's probably because I really was looking at it, and then I would turn and I would keep seeing it for like 10 minutes, and I would come back to it, look at it again, and then it was just a vicious cycle of now seeing the horse mask everywhere. But, you know, I didn't freak out, I just kind of rolled with everything. One of the most disgusting parts of the whole entire thing was, you know, whenever you're tripping, you want to keep drinking water. Even if you're already hydrated, you just feel like you have to drink water. So I went to the kitchen, and not to bash them or anything, but they didn't have the cleanest apartment, and they did not have the cleanest kitchen. When you go in there, there's just, you know, dirt on the floor, like dirty dishes. So I was thirsty as hell, and I was just opening all their cabinets, and I could not find a cup or anything for the life of me. So eventually I looked to a cup that was already on the counter, and I was like, okay, fuck it, I'll just use this. The only problem was, every time I looked in it, it looked like there was something in the bottom of it. And I could not for the life of me tell if it was real, or if I was just seeing shit. But eventually I gave in. I was like, it's probably just the visuals and the trails that are making it look like it's fucked up. And we'll come back to that. Penelope, he was absolutely freaking out. And like I said before, he started pacing around everywhere, and every 5 seconds he would be like, "What's happening? Am I dying?" "No, dude, you're good. You're just tripping." "Oh, okay." "Wait, no!" And he was so fully convinced that he was dying, nothing we said could shake him out of it. And I can't imagine what was going on in his mind, because he was just looking at us like we were fucking demons. He would not trust anything that we said. He was delusional. He was losing it. He took more than he could handle, and now we all kind of had to, instead of just Angelo being the babysitter, we all turned into the babysitters, and we would just take turns, one of us looking over him and trying to chill him out, and then the other two would tap out and go smoke a cigarette or something, and someone else would come back and try to keep him calm. But he was just not having it. No matter what we did, he would not calm down. We just had to be there to make sure he didn't fucking run away, or like run into traffic, or like jump off a roof or something. That's why it's always important, if you're unexperienced, or even just in general, to always have someone there, and always have someone looking out for you, and always make sure you can handle what you take, because psychedelics are extremely unpredictable. Also, a good thing to make note of is to have trip killers. Trip killers are benzodiazepines, Xanax, and Klonopin. Xanax is probably the best because it's the strongest and the quickest acting, and when you're in a really bad trip and you want it to end, like you want it to end as fast as possible. So yeah, always have someone there, always know what you're getting yourself into. Keep benzos on hand if you can. Not to mention be in a good, nice, safe environment. And your buddy's house, who's a good buddy. You know him for a long time, you love him. You know, you're around a bunch of people that you love. Don't trip around assholes, because they're assholes. Not cool, man. Just trip around good, nice people that you're like, this is gonna be alright. And, you know, you'll have a good time. So this cycle of Penelope freaking out went on, and it's terrible, but eventually Dilaudid looks at Penelope, and he's just like, yes! You are dying! And Penelope, at this, just stops and looks at him, says, oh, okay. Oh, so I'm not dying. Oh, okay. It had like this weird reverse psychology effect on him. But that didn't last long, and then like 10 minutes later, he was like, wait, no! At one point, me and Dilaudid have to step outside and just kind of take a breather and take it all in. And so we were standing there smoking a cigarette, and I was looking at the sky, and the sky was changing colors from red to purple to green, and it was like beautiful, like evening sky. And I looked at Dilaudid, and for the first time since we started tripping, it occurred to me that he might be having just as an intense trip as Penelope is, but not necessarily expressing it. So I looked at him and I was like, are you tripping the fuck out? Yeah, he just stood there like a blank expression on his face, smoking. Yeah. Yeah, that's all I got out of him. And so we just stood out there quiet for a little bit while I saw Dilaudid's form just vibrating intensely, and his whole body looking like pixels and just shaking. And it was interesting. It's weird because just being outside kind of made me anxious and freak out a little bit, like somehow some neighbor was going to look outside and just know that we were tripping balls and going to call the police or something. And on that note, I can't imagine people going out and tripping in public. At one point, we look over at Penelope, and he's just sitting on the couch. And if anyone remembers what, like, rave hands are, this kind of thing, where you have light gloves and you get people light shows, is really popular at raves. It was really popular back in like 2013. I had never seen Penelope do it in his life, and I didn't know he could. I don't think that he could. But out of nowhere, I look over at Penelope, and he is just enamored and doing his own weird, crazy version of rave hands. He's just, because most of the time it's fluid, right? Well, he was doing all this crazy, like, boxy shit. Like, this, I can't do it. But it worked, and I don't know if it was because we were all tripping, but it looked fucking amazing, like, ridiculous. I was like, dude, you ever done that before? He was like, nah. And I was like, how the fuck are you doing that? How did you just sit down and all of a sudden you were like a completely focused on his hands? And when he got done, he looked up, he looked at all of us, and he was like, I freaked out. We were like, yeah, you did. At the end of all of this, Penelope told us what was going on inside his mind, and apparently he thought that we were evil nurses that were out to get him, and that he was in an insane asylum, and we were going to kill him because his brain no longer worked. And I kind of figured that something crazy was going on inside his mind, but I had no idea that something to that extremity was going on, and it definitely explained a lot. Yeah, finally it ended, and it went from being ridiculous, crazy, hectic, and in a matter of minutes it was fairly chill, and we all sat down, just kind of were tired. Like, don't get me wrong, I had a good time, but there was something else. But yeah, I remember earlier I was talking about the glass of water or the glass that I was drinking from, and how I thought that there was something on the bottom of it, but also I thought that I could just be hallucinating. Yeah, later on I look at it and it's nasty. I don't remember what, because it was a long time ago, but there was dirt. There could have been like flies or some kind of other bug at the bottom of it, and that was the worst part of everything. Thanks everyone for listening to my story, everyone, my dog's story. Everyone be safe out there, have safe tripping, remember always have trip buddy, always have trip killers, always be in a safe environment. I'll hopefully be making new videos soon, if even this video gets out, because I don't even have a fucking computer. Everything I own is shit, but I'm gonna find a way to edit this. So if you're seeing this, it means that I accomplished my task. So, thank you, and look forward to more stuff.